Hello, and welcome to Old Age Wisdom. Many of us grew up with the deep-seated conviction that our family would invariably be there for us, a constant source of support throughout our lives. It's a comforting notion, isn't it? Picturing our children, our siblings, perhaps even our spouse, always remaining close, perpetually ready to offer support as we navigate our later years. However, what happens if reality diverges from this expectation? What if life takes unforeseen turns, leaving you feeling unexpectedly alone? The unvarnished truth is that life frequently deviates from the pathways we map out in our youth. I recently came across a sobering report indicating that over 3 million older individuals in the United Kingdom currently live entirely by themselves. That figure represents nearly 30% of the senior population, and it's a number that continues to increase steadily each year. Statistically, this suggests a significant likelihood that you, I, or someone dear to us might face living solo in our golden years. Allow me to share a brief personal anecdote about my Aunt Margaret. Now 92, she lost her beloved husband, Charles, more than 15 years ago. Since that time, she has maintained her independence, living entirely on her own. While she does have a couple of children, they are geographically dispersed, deeply involved in their own careers, managing their own households, and raising their families. Margaret has intentionally constructed a life where she isn't reliant on anyone else. Observing her resilience and self-sufficiency brought a crucial insight into focus. If we desire our later years to be characterized by happiness, tranquility, and a sense of fulfillment, we cannot merely passively hope that others will consistently be available. We must actively and deliberately prepare ourselves for independence, commencing that preparation today. If you appreciate insights like these geared towards enriching our later years, please consider giving this video a like or subscribing to Old Age Wisdom for more content. Your support helps us reach more people navigating similar life stages. It's quite natural when you're navigating your 40s or 50s to presume that a built-in network of support will perpetually exist. You might think, my children will certainly check in regularly, or my siblings will always be nearby, or perhaps, my spouse and I will navigate old age together, hand in hand. Yet, upon closer reflection, the dynamics often shift. Children establish their own lives, forging their own family units, frequently relocating miles or even continents away. Spouses, in a heartbreaking reality, may pass away, leaving a void. Siblings inevitably face their own personal hurdles and responsibilities. Friendships, too, can naturally disperse as time goes on. As you progress into your 60s, 70s, and beyond, the realization often crystallizes. Familial support isn't an ironclad guarantee. If your family is present and supportive, that is truly wonderful, a blessing to be cherished. But if circumstances dictate otherwise, you still need the capacity to thrive independently. You must cultivate a life that remains vibrant, autonomous, and joyful, irrespective of external support structures. This understanding prompted me to develop what I refer to as my 6-pillar operating system, or 6POS for short. Consider it a foundational framework designed to keep my life robust, meaningful, and self-reliant, without depending heavily on others. I embarked on creating this system back in my early 50s, well before I anticipated genuinely needing its structure. Now, as I navigate my 60s, I can attest that implementing this system ranks among the most beneficial actions I've ever taken for my own well-being and future security. Today, I intend to guide you through these 6 essential pillars. They are fundamentally simple concepts, yet remarkably potent in their application. Think of them as the authentic safety net you can truly rely upon after the age of 60. They constitute your genuine support system, offering far more dependability than simply wishing someone else will always be there to catch you. We value creating content that resonates with you. So if you're finding this helpful, please take a moment to like this video or subscribe to Old Age Wisdom. It truly helps our community grow. Just so you're aware, I'll be presenting these pillars in a specific sequence, reserving the most pivotal one for the very end. So please stay engaged until the conclusion, because that final pillar serves as the bedrock upon which all the others firmly rest. Alright, let's begin exploring them. Pillar number 1 is physical health. Your physical body serves as the absolute cornerstone for everything else. I'm initiating our discussion here because, quite frankly, if your health deteriorates significantly, the other aspects of a fulfilling life become immensely more challenging, if not impossible, to enjoy. Reflecting on my late 30s and 40s, I admit I often took my physical well-being for granted. My diet included too much processed food, sleep was often sacrificed for late nights, and regular movement wasn't prioritized sufficiently. The prevailing thought was always, I'll address it later. Well, permit me to share a crucial lesson. Later arrives much more rapidly than one anticipates. A few years back, I experienced a significant wake-up call. I required surgery for the removal of my gallbladder. That entire ordeal, the hospital admission, the discomfort, the extended, slow recovery process, powerfully underscored just how delicate our physical health can become if we neglect it. It wasn't merely the surgical procedure itself. It was the subsequent months spent diligently rebuilding strength and regaining stamina that truly humbled me and reshaped my perspective on prioritizing health. Today, I treat my physical health with the utmost priority, almost as if my very life hinges upon it, because, in many ways, it does. This doesn't necessitate engaging in extreme activities like running marathons or subjecting yourself to punishing gym routines. For me, it revolves around consistently adhering to the fundamentals. I incorporate strength training 3 times per week, nothing overly strenuous, just enough to keep my muscles active and maintain functional strength. I make a conscious effort to achieve a minimum of 7,000 steps each day. This isn't accomplished through elaborate, planned hikes, but rather by intentionally weaving movement into the fabric of my daily routine, walking to the local shops, opting for stairs instead of elevators, enjoying a leisurely stroll around the neighborhood after dinner. Nutrition is another major component. I've consciously shifted away from heavily processed items, favoring a diet abundant in fruits, vegetables, beneficial fats, and high-quality proteins. While I don't obsess over every detail, I practice mindful eating, recognizing that the fuel you provide your body directly impacts both physical energy and cognitive function. The objective extends beyond mere disease prevention. The true goal is achieving sustained vitality. You aspire to be the individual who can still travel comfortably, walk without assistance, tend to a garden, or even enjoy dancing well into your 80s or 90s, rather than being confined indoors, restricted by a body that gave out prematurely. If you're listening now and recognize that health has been relegated to the back burner in your own life, please hear this. It is genuinely never too late to begin making positive changes. Start modestly, perhaps a 10-minute daily walk, or swapping one less healthy meal choice for something more nourishing. Build incrementally from that point. Your future self is imploring you to take your health seriously, starting right now. Let's move on to the second pillar, which is mental flexibility, the importance of keeping your mind open and adaptable. This aspect is equally critical for navigating the later stages of life successfully. Consider this: while the process of aging itself is an unavoidable part of the human experience, developing rigidity, becoming resistant to new ideas, or feeling disconnected from the contemporary world, those are choices, not inevitabilities. I have observed numerous individuals, fundamentally good people, gradually constrict their own worlds as they advance in age. They cease engaging in learning, actively resist change, and often dismiss or even mock new technologies, evolving social norms, or different ways of living. Before they fully realize it, they find themselves confined within a remarkably small, and often quite lonely, personal universe. That is a future I actively seek to avoid for myself, and it's certainly not the path I wish for any of you watching. One commitment I made to myself back in my 50s was to intentionally cultivate and maintain mental flexibility. This involves making a conscious effort to learn something new each month, even if it seems minor. It means exploring unfamiliar tools and technologies, whether that's becoming more proficient with a smartphone, experimenting with basic video editing software, or even taking the time to understand the fundamentals of emerging concepts like cryptocurrency, not necessarily for investment purposes, but simply to remain conversant with the evolving world around us. When I encounter a novel concept or something I don't initially grasp, my reaction isn't dismissal. Instead, I make a quick note of it, perhaps in a notes app on my phone, and make a point to research it later. The key is to perpetually nurture curiosity. Much like your muscles, if you fail to exercise your brain, it can atrophy, gradually becoming less agile and effective. Conversely, when you consistently engage in learning, questioning assumptions, and experimenting with new approaches, your mind retains its sharpness, its adaptability, and its vitality. And truthfully, isn't that how you'd prefer to be perceived and remembered, as someone who remained fully engaged with the richness and complexity of life until the very end? Technology, cultural trends, even the fundamental ways we communicate, all these facets of life will continue to shift and evolve. Don't allow yourself to be left behind. Instead, lean into the changes, adapt where necessary, and consciously maintain an open, receptive mindset. It represents one of the most valuable gifts you can bestow upon yourself as you age. Now, let's proceed to the third pillar, one that holds particular significance for me personally. This pillar revolves around purpose and passion. Let's be entirely candid. If you lack a compelling reason to rise from bed each morning, if you no longer feel that you are making a meaningful contribution in some capacity, life can gradually begin to lose its vibrancy and zest. I've witnessed this scenario unfold repeatedly. Individuals retire from their long-held careers, perhaps celebrate with a small gathering, maybe embark on a long-awaited trip or two, and then an unsettling quiet descends. The days can start to blend together indistinguishably. The initial excitement of freedom wanes, and a sense of invisibility or perceived uselessness can creep in, accompanied by the disheartening feeling that their most significant chapters are already written and concluded. However, here lies the crucial counterpoint. Those subsequent chapters only appear blank because they haven't yet been authored. Retirement should not be viewed as a definitive ending. Rather, it marks the commencement of a potentially rich and rewarding new phase. Your intrinsic value doesn't cease when your formal employment does. Your capacity to contribute doesn't simply evaporate, it merely transforms in its expression. And if approached thoughtfully, this period can emerge as the most creatively stimulating and deeply fulfilling stage of your entire life. When I transitioned away from full-time work, I recognized the necessity of discovering fresh passions to occupy the significant space that my career had filled for so many years. For me, this evolved into various forms of creation. I began dedicating more time to writing, something I'd always enjoyed but rarely prioritized. I ventured into photography, a field that had long intrigued me but for which I'd never previously carved out sufficient time. Eventually, my explorations led me to experiment with video production, which ultimately culminated in the creation of this very YouTube channel you are engaging with today. It's wonderful connecting with you all here. If our discussions on living well in later life resonate, please show your support by liking this video or subscribing to Old Age Wisdom. We appreciate you being part of our community. Discovering your purpose doesn't necessitate launching a new business venture or penning the next literary masterpiece, unless, of course, those are your genuine aspirations. Passion can manifest in countless forms. Volunteering time at a local community center, offering mentorship to younger individuals, taking up painting, constructing intricate model ships, essentially. Anything that genuinely ignites your interest and enthusiasm. It doesn't need to generate income. It doesn't need to garner external accolades or impress anyone else. Its sole requirement is that it holds personal significance for you. I often reflect on the well-known research conducted by Bronnie Ware, who spent considerable time working with individuals receiving palliative care. She meticulously documented the most frequently expressed regrets among the dying. Prominently featured near the top of that list was the sentiment, "I wish I hadn't worked so hard." This regret wasn't typically directed at the work itself, but rather stemmed from the realization that excessive focus on career obligations had led them to miss out on pursuing other passions, nurturing relationships more deeply, or embarking on desired adventures. Don't allow that potential regret to shadow your own later years. Seek out and cultivate your passions now, while there remains ample time to savor and enjoy them fully. You still possess numerous blank pages waiting to be filled, and believe me, the narrative you can compose in your 60s, 70s, and even 80s possesses the potential to be every bit as vibrant, engaging, and meaningful, perhaps even more so, than anything that has preceded it. This naturally leads us to the fourth pillar, prosperity and financial security. Now, I understand that the term prosperity might sound somewhat grand or perhaps even slightly daunting. However, within this specific context, prosperity carries a straightforward meaning, possessing sufficient financial freedom to enable you to live life according to your own values and choices. This isn't fundamentally about accumulating vast wealth, driving luxury vehicles, or residing in opulent mansions. Rather, it's about achieving a state where you aren't kept awake at night by anxieties concerning bill payments. It signifies having the confidence that your financial resources are adequate to cover your essential needs, allow you to pursue your genuine interests, and empower you to maintain your independence without needing to rely financially on anyone else. Let's acknowledge the reality. Persistent financial stress exerts a corrosive influence. It subtly permeates every facet of your existence, negatively impacting your physical health, straining your relationships, and eroding your overall peace of mind. Particularly in later life, a time when you ideally should be savoring the rewards accrued from decades of diligent effort, the last thing you desire is to feel constrained or trapped due to inadequate prior planning. I'll be forthright. My own journey with money management wasn't always perfect. During my 30s and 40s, I undoubtedly spent excessively on material possessions and experiences that, in retrospect, didn't contribute lasting value. However, around my early 50s, my wife, Laura, and I engaged in a lengthy, candid conversation about the kind of future we envisioned for ourselves. We arrived at a shared realization: the less we felt we needed materially, the greater our sense of freedom would become. Consequently, we made several deliberate adjustments. We downsized, selling the large, sprawling house that, once the children had moved out, had become more burdensome in terms of maintenance than joyful to inhabit. We transitioned to a smaller, cozier home, which not only costs significantly less to operate but also positions us closer to the heart of our local community. Simultaneously, we began consciously simplifying our overall lifestyle. We didn't eliminate activities we genuinely cherished, such as occasional travel or enjoying a nice meal out, but we cultivated a much greater mindfulness regarding our expenditures. It's truly remarkable how liberating it feels to recognize that you no longer need to engage in comparisons or strive to keep pace with anyone else's perceived standard of living. You cease competing. You stop trying to impress. You simply focus on living contentedly and happily within your established means. For a bit of enjoyment on the side, and to maintain a modest supplementary cash flow, I took up the hobby of buying and selling collectible books and vintage toys. I genuinely relished the process of treasure hunting at local markets and antique shops, and then finding buyers for unique finds online, often through platforms like eBay. Sometimes the profit margin is quite small, perhaps just a few pounds, while other times it results in a more substantial small windfall. Yet, beyond the monetary aspect, this activity provides me with a valuable sense of engagement, a creative outlet, and yes, admittedly, a little extra financial cushion for our savings account never goes amiss. The crucial takeaway I wish to emphasize here is this: achieving financial independence doesn't necessarily equate to ceasing all forms of work forever. Instead, it signifies attaining the freedom to choose what activities you engage in, when you do them, and for whom you undertake them. If you still possess the desire to take on a particular project, that's fantastic. If you wish to dedicate your time to volunteering, that's even better. The key distinction is that you are no longer compelled into undertaking activities solely for the purpose of covering essential living expenses. You gain the autonomy to live life genuinely on your own terms, and that, in my view, constitutes the authentic definition of prosperity in later life. Let's transition now to the fifth pillar, an aspect that is frequently overlooked yet remains absolutely essential for attaining genuine happiness and inner contentment. This pillar concerns spiritual and philosophical strength. Now, please don't be concerned. When I use the term spiritual, I am not necessarily referring exclusively to organized religion. I have no intention of proselytizing, nor am I suggesting what anyone ought to believe. In fact, I don't personally identify as particularly religious. However, what I have discovered through personal experience, and what I know resonates with many others, is the profound importance of cultivating some sense of connection to something larger than oneself for maintaining emotional equilibrium as we age. This connection could manifest through a deep appreciation of nature, a sense of or regarding the vastness of the universe, a quiet, personal faith practice, or even engaging with the timeless wisdom articulated by ancient philosophers and thinkers throughout history. The fundamental point is that when you develop a framework for perceiving yourself as an integral part of a larger, interconnected tapestry, it imbues your life with a unique kind of grounding, a sense of calm, and a broader perspective that material wealth and external achievements alone cannot replicate. One of my preferred methods for nurturing this particular pillar is remarkably simple. I embark on long, solitary walks, particularly immersing myself in natural surroundings. Just the act of being beneath the expanse of open sky, attentively listening to the sound of the wind rustling through the trees, and consciously noticing the subtle shifts of the changing seasons, it exerts a palpable effect. It helps to strip away the incessant mental chatter, gently reminding you of your individual smallness within the grand scheme, yet simultaneously highlighting your profound connection to everything surrounding you. There's a small park situated near my home, a tranquil, often underappreciated green space featuring winding pathways and an old, picturesque stone bridge. Frequently, I'll grab a cup of coffee, intentionally leave my phone tucked away in my pocket, and simply meander through the park for an hour or so. During these walks, I don't actively try to solve problems or ruminate on specific thoughts. Instead, I allow my mind the space to simply breathe and observe. These walks have effectively become my personal sanctuary, my form of therapy, my moving meditation. Another practice that has proven deeply meaningful for me involves delving into ancient texts. Over the past several years, I found myself increasingly drawn to the writings of philosophers such as Lao Tzu, Marcus Aurelius, and Confucius. There exists an incredible wealth of enduring wisdom within their works, invaluable lessons concerning resilience, humility, and the art of living a virtuous and meaningful life, regardless of the external circumstances one encounters. One book that I hold in particularly high regard is titled The Path, authored by Michael Poot, a professor at Harvard. The book explores how principles from ancient Chinese philosophy can be practically applied to navigate the complexities of modern existence, and I find its insights incredibly grounding. It serves as a potent reminder that sustainable happiness isn't derived from relentlessly chasing fleeting moments of intense excitement, but rather from the consistent cultivation of small, meaningful habits day after day. It emphasizes finding beauty in the commonplace, practicing kindness even when unobserved, and striving to be fully present in each moment. When you actively cultivate this spiritual or philosophical foundation, life inherently becomes less intimidating. The process of aging feels less daunting, and experiences of loss become more manageable. This shift occurs because you begin to recognize yourself as part of a much larger narrative, one that extends far beyond the confines of your individual existence. This broadened perspective makes navigating challenges easier, deepens the experience of joy, lightens the weight of sorrow, and can transform periods of solitude from feeling lonely into feeling sacred and restorative. If you don't currently engage in a regular spiritual or philosophical practice, now represents an ideal opportunity to begin exploring possibilities, not for external validation, but purely for the cultivation of your own inner peace and resilience. And that brings us to the sixth and final pillar, your social circle. Let me be unequivocally clear on this point. After the age of 60, meaningful relationships arguably matter more than ever before. However, it's crucial to emphasize that this isn't about just any relationships, it's about cultivating the right kind of relationships. I'm not advocating for amassing hundreds of superficial acquaintances on social media platforms or attempting to maintain an extensive network of shallow connections. Instead, I'm referring to the deliberate cultivation of a small, tightly knit group of individuals whom you genuinely care about and who reciprocate that care for you. Here's a stark reality we must acknowledge: loneliness can be detrimental to health. Numerous studies have consistently demonstrated that chronic loneliness poses risks to physical and mental well-being comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes daily. It significantly increases the likelihood of developing heart disease, dementia, depression, and contributes to premature mortality. As traditional family support systems may naturally become less consistently available, perhaps children are occupied with their own demanding lives, a spouse passes away, siblings relocate, or friends move. Your carefully chosen friends can effectively become your surrogate family. However, fostering these deep connections requires conscious and deliberate effort. Strong friendships don't merely materialize by chance. They necessitate consistent nurturing, dedicated effort, and, most importantly, the foundation of shared experiences and mutual understanding. Reflecting on my younger years, I recall having dozens of casual friends. After a social gathering, I might struggle to recall precisely who I conversed with or the specifics of our shared laughter. While enjoyable in the moment, those connections often lacked substantial depth. Now, navigating my 60s, I can genuinely count my truly close friends on one hand, and honestly, that feels perfectly appropriate and fulfilling. These are the individuals I know, without reservation, would be there for me in a time of need, without even requiring an explicit request. They are the people with whom I can discuss anything: the triumphs, the challenges, the messy, complicated aspects of life, and they understand that they can share with me in the same unguarded manner. Within these relationships, there exists no judgment, no scorekeeping, only mutual respect, genuine affection, and unwavering trust. One effective strategy I've employed to both build and sustain these invaluable friendships involves actively participating in activities I genuinely enjoy and consequently finding others who share those same interests. For example, I joined a local photography group several years ago, not primarily out of a desperate need for new friends, but driven by a desire to deepen my engagement with a personal passion. The friendships that organically blossom from that shared interest emerge naturally, rooted in mutual enjoyment rather than any sense of obligation. Another illustration is the creation of this YouTube channel. Through the process of developing content and engaging in dialogue with individuals who hold similar values and perspectives, I forged connections that genuinely enrich my life. Remarkably, some of these online interactions have even transitioned into tangible, real-world friendships, an outcome I hadn't anticipated but for which I am profoundly grateful. If you're currently reflecting and perhaps feeling that you lack such close connections, please don't despair. It is truly never too late to begin cultivating them. Consider joining a book club, enrolling in a cooking class that sparks your interest, or volunteering your time for a cause that resonates deeply with you. There's no need to adopt a networking mindset or feel pressure to impress anyone. Simply show up consistently, approach others with genuine curiosity and kindness, and allow authentic connections to develop organically over time. One final, crucial point. As you build and nurture your social circle, be highly intentional about surrounding yourself with positive, uplifting individuals, people who energize rather than drain you, who genuinely believe in your potential, and who treat you with the respect you deserve. Life is simply too precious and too finite to invest significant time with those who diminish your spirit or consistently make you feel inadequate. Guard your emotional energy fiercely, choose your companions wisely, and invest wholeheartedly in nurturing those relationships that truly nourish your soul. Because ultimately, irrespective of how independent you strive to be, regardless of how robustly you've constructed your other pillars, we all inherently need companionship, someone to share the journey with, even if it's just a small circle of trusted, cherished friends. So, now that we have journeyed together through all 6 pillars, physical health, mental flexibility, purpose and passion, prosperity and financial security, spiritual and philosophical strength, and your vital social circle, there remains one final, crucial point I need to underscore. It is arguably the most critical message conveyed in this entire discussion. You absolutely must commit to building these pillars before you find yourself in desperate need of their support. I cannot emphasize this strongly enough. You cannot afford to wait until a crisis inevitably strikes. You cannot delay action until loneliness begins to insidiously creep in, or until an unexpected illness abruptly forces limitations upon you. Constructing these pillars is akin to planting trees. You undertake the effort today, nurturing them carefully, so that they can provide essential shade and shelter for you years down the road. You begin fortifying your defenses before the storm arrives, not while you're struggling amidst its fury. If you happen to be in your 40s or 50s right now, this represents the absolutely ideal time to commence this foundational work. If you're already navigating your 60s or 70s, that is still perfectly fine, but the imperative is to begin today. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next year, today. The encouraging news is that even seemingly small, incremental steps yield significant cumulative results over time. A brief 15-minute daily walk, exploring a new hobby that piques your interest, offering a friendly greeting to someone you encounter regularly, dedicating a few quiet moments to reflection while immersed in nature, jotting down a quick note on your phone about something intriguing you wish to learn more about. These minor actions progressively build momentum. They collectively contribute to creating a life that doesn't merely endure, but actively thrives. And here's the truly beautiful aspect. As you diligently strengthen these personal pillars, you not only enhance the quality and resilience of your own life, but you also naturally become a source of strength and inspiration for those around you. Your independence, your vitality, your positive example, these qualities ripple outward, potentially inspiring your children, your friends, and even casual acquaintances you encounter along your path. You effectively demonstrate to the world that aging doesn't have to be a process of diminution. Rather, it can be an expansion into deeper wisdom, greater freedom, and genuine, lasting joy. As we conclude our time together today, I'd like to leave you with a question for reflection. Which of these 6 pillars do you feel is currently strongest in your own life? And conversely, which one perhaps requires a little more dedicated attention and nurturing right now? Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section below. I genuinely enjoy reading your perspectives and insights. Furthermore, if you found this discussion valuable, perhaps consider sharing it with a friend or family member who might also be contemplating their future and could benefit from these ideas. You never truly know whose life you might positively impact simply by extending a small gesture of encouragement. Remember, while family connections are undoubtedly a precious blessing, they cannot serve as your sole contingency plan for aging well. Ultimately, you are your own most reliable safety net. The life you intentionally construct with your own efforts, guided by your own values, that is the life that will sustain you, enabling you to move forward with strength and steadiness, regardless of what circumstances may arise. Thank you sincerely for investing your time with me today on Old Age Wisdom. Please remember to like this video if it resonated, subscribe for more content focused on thriving in later life, and share it with others who might benefit. Until our next conversation, take excellent care of your body, actively nurture your mind, pursue your passions with enthusiasm, diligently protect your inner peace, cherish your meaningful friendships, and above all, strive to live life fully on your own terms. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.